Ladies and gentlemen, I know the type of person that wants to silence, prevent discussion, silence any opposing viewpoint, stifle any debate or discourse under the guise of caring for people who might be harmed by these ideas. The reality is that half the country, or maybe less than half, the Democratic Party, morally superior, wonderful liberal Democrats, maybe a lot of them truly believe that their vantage point, their experts, their knowledgeable and educated people within positions of authority have all the answers to everything. Maybe some of them do, maybe some of them don't. The issue is we should be all protected under the First Amendment, which pretty much doesn't exist anymore in this country. The problem that the left or Democratic Party or morally superior, wonderful liberal Democrats have is the following. Their ideas are not good enough. They're not powerful enough, persuasive enough. Maybe they're not rooted in truth. Maybe all of their ideas aren't perhaps grounded in fact and reality. Perhaps a lot of their policies are motivated by emotion and media coverage and political momentum rather than actual data or fact or logic or reason. But the Democratic Party has a huge problem. They have every conceivable advantage from the New York Times, the Washington Post, MSNBC, every cable station almost, the news network that shall not be named because we found out people who work there are, a couple of them potentially are quite despicable people. But the New Yorker, the Atlantic, New York Magazine, I said the Washington Post, BuzzFeed, the Daily Beast, they all think the same thing. Liberal Democrats run social media companies. The algorithms are the same, pretty much the same algorithms. And now you have Marjorie Taylor Greene permanently suspended by Twitter after, well, of course, President Trump was, and a leading scientist who was just on Joe Rogan was. The problem Democrats have is the following. You cannot suppress, silence, stifle discussion, dialogue, discourse, debate, and expect to have a functioning society. This is why people have said Trump worked with Russia and then we found out he didn't. This is why people have said, well, if you just do this, everything will be fine. And now we see, you can just look, nothing is fine. Everything's worse. We're worse off now than we were at any point in Trump's administration, objectively. And if you want to say, well, the society wasn't functioning his last year, yeah, who pushed for that? Who said if we end all economic activity, everything will get back to normal? They keep on moving the goalposts. But here, there's a philosophical discussion, okay? You have a lot of atheists on the left, to the left of this political spectrum. These people pride themselves in not believing in God because there's no evidence for that. Well, number one, their ideas are never banned on social media, okay? Nor should those ideas be banned, okay? The smartest, most wonderful people I know are agnostic, actually. But you have these people who say, I don't believe in religion or I don't believe in God because there's no evidence for it and it's just superstition. Well, those people actually have a new religion. It's called media, MSNBC, the New York Times, the leading, whatever consensus, which is another issue, whatever leading consensus states that the risk-reward or the cost-benefit analysis for me should be the cost-benefit analysis for you, should be the risk-reward analysis for you. The leading consensus, it could be on climate change, it could be on any issue that we're still dealing with 2 years into the initial catastrophe. By the way, hit subscribe to this channel right now. Subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel. I have a new segment, a wonderful Reason magazine article I'm reading about Biden's policies leading to a stock market crash, well, devastating inflation. But it's on the Stock Market Crash channel, and that's below in the pinned comments. So please go ahead and and hit subscribe there. To my new Patreons, if you want to support my work long term, my Patreon is below in the pinned comment. I can't thank you enough. I'm going to start a Subscribe Star soon as well. Consensus or misinformation or information that could be harmful, these are all deceptive and disingenuous terms and accusations. You can't even prove in a court of law that rock and roll lyrics or lyrics to a song led to somebody's demise. You can't prove in a court of law that if somebody listens to this Trump Republican, as opposed to your revered expert or authority, that person lost their life. You can't prove that information has led to anyone's life being lost, especially when the revered authorities consistently backtrack and flip-flop and then say, well, this changed and that changed and the facts on the ground changed and everything, so therefore my viewpoint evolved. Everyone on both political sides, especially the left, continually evolves their viewpoints. You can't have a functioning society with a reverence or a worship of one political side's views. The problem the Democrats face is that if they don't suspend people, they don't win. If they don't suspend discussion of like 5 or 6 or 7 different topics, it could be the results of mashed potato brains defeating the Orange Menace, or why this leading scientist had to go on Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan's amazing, but he had to go on the show immediately after being suspended to explain his side of the story. Or why this Georgia Republican is permanently suspended. If they don't twist the vice, on discussion and stifled debate, discourse, dialogue, under the guise of protecting a society in America, their ideas don't win out. And even if you want to say, well, those ideas are right, and there are people who believe in horrible information, and those people are hurting people's lives, you saw how what Bette Midler thinks of the entire state of West Virginia. Do you honestly think that the CEOs or the CFO or the brass at Twitter or the top Democrats in Congress, do you think they care about Marjorie Taylor Greene's constituents or anyone who would believe her ideas or anyone who would be open to her viewpoint? Do you think they care about actually helping or protecting Trump supporters? And I'm not saying I don't agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene on a lot of things she says, or the way that she's conducted herself here and there. I don't agree with that, but it's interesting how the playing field is not level. And Democrats and social media companies have to suppress dialogue and discourse. If they didn't, Biden's approval would be, I don't even know, what is it at? Like barely 40 or 41 or 42 or 38 at one point? What's it at? His approval would be in the high 20s or low 30s. If one political side is not propped up by laws that are unconstitutional, by forcing people, you can't have a normal life if you do this or that, and saying you can't talk about this. You see with your own eyes what's taking place now. Nothing they've said is working out. Nothing. And they lie by omission. It could be about every topic. They lie by omission. They form a fabricated consensus by banning or suspending or suppressing or mocking or denigrating or calling anyone who disagrees, who's an expert, a quack and somebody who's nuts. And then they say, well, it's expert consensus and this is the prevailing mentality, when you can't have a prevailing mentality without a free and open dialogue and discussion and debate. This is basic philosophy. We learned this in the Renaissance. This is like Aristotle, Socrates ended his own life because he didn't believe in the prevailing mentality of experts of his generation or of his age. Okay, and all he had to do is just admit, pretend that he was wrong. But he didn't. Anyway, the whole point is, you're not going to. What you do is, this is the Obi-Wan Kenobi problem that Democrats have. When they suspend or ban, they make the person or the ideas that espoused by that person, they make those thoughts greater, stronger, more powerful than ever. Okay? That's like Obi-Wan Kenobi said, if you strike me down, I'll return more powerful than ever. Anyway, give me your thoughts below. This is basically a philosophical discussion, but again, I know these types of people. They're generally apoplectic, hysterical, completely irrational, can't discuss or have a normal debate or discussion. That's why I say in this year, do not debate anyone on the left. They'll never change their viewpoint no matter what they see in front of them. And pretty much most of what they've said the past 5 years, from Trump working with Russia to everything else, hasn't been true. Again, I'm not saying I agree with everything Marjorie Taylor Greene says, but she has the right to say what she wants to say. Or we have a right as Americans, and to speak our mind. Now, if you want to, the absurd rebuttal is, well, you want freedom. Your freedom has consequences. You can't prove that in a court of law, you imbecile. You cannot prove in a court of law that anyone's statement on any topic has led to anyone's life being lost. Furthermore, you don't care about the person who would take this or that or listen to this or that and who loses his or her life, God forbid, because, in your words, because of the ideas that should never be listened to. You don't care about that person anyway. So it's like, this is a disingenuous game where people's ideas are being suppressed under the guise of protecting society, when in reality, the people suppressing the ideas don't care about half the population, or the population that don't vote for them. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now to this channel. Hit subscribe to the stock market channel below. Thank you so very much.